Welcome back into the breakdown with Benny. We are here on this wonderful Tuesday afternoon, and on the show today, I have some wonderful sports talk action for all of y'all, and I appreciate every single one of y'all for stopping by, tuning in, and listening today. I hope that y'all are going to stay entertained throughout the show. I hope y'all had a great night last night, but now let's take some time to recap everything that happened yesterday, and we will go into the world of college football with a crazy storyline that has been going on centered around Texas Tech University. But right now, I want to focus on the world of sports entertainment in the WWE because last night was the last Monday Night Raw before the inevitable Backlash PLE that is happening in Tampa, Florida, and just this Saturday. So this was the go-home show for the PLE. So let's break down every single segment from the show last night. Starting off with the fact that Seth Rollins kicked off a Monday Night Raw in the show. And it was just moments after he actually had a face-to-face altercation with Monday Night Raw's World Heavyweight Champion, Roman Reigns. And in that little face-to-face, Rollins simply put it, "You're in my way." And this really felt like a teaser for something. Perhaps maybe SummerSlam, although I think SummerSlam looks more like Obafemi than it does Seth Rollins for Roman Reigns, but it could be as soon as SummerSlam or as late as next year's WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. But it definitely felt like they were trying to tease something there just right in the opening seconds of the show. And then it was the Visionary entering the arena to a thunderous ovation, only to be attacked from behind by the unpredictable badass Braun Breaker. He ended up brutally assaulting the Architect, dropping him face first into the barricade and then sending him shoulder first into the ring steps. Breaker ended up just stopping there. He assaulted security before he was inevitably backed off and up the ramp by Raw General Manager, Mr. Adam Pearce. But Adam Pearce wasn't going to stop anything, as Braun Breaker wasn't done with Rollins yet. He pushed past security one more time and destroyed his former mentor with a spear. The heel stood tall by the end of this opening segment, talked trash to Rollins, and made his way up the ramp to close the opening segment of the show out. And it definitely got the show started off with an absolute bang. I thought this was a perfect segment to continue to advance the story that is Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, and the fact that Seth Rollins doesn't have any friends to help him. This is just a battle versus old team in the Vision, mainly against Braun Breaker. Now, I do think this will inevitably possibly lead to the storyline being Seth Rollins will find that friend once again, but as of right now, he is just by himself. And then it was time for the first in-ring action of the night. Now, backstage, before we could get into it, your women's world champion, Miss Liv Morgan, was grilling Roxanne Perez about how did Balor get into the Judgment Day locker room last week, and why was he even talking to Roxanne Perez, and why was Roxanne Perez even entertaining it, and why did Roxanne never come to Liv Morgan to tell her about it? Why did the world champion have to check out Netflix to see what was happening in the Judgment Day locker room? The prodigy then pleaded her case and pledged her allegiance to the faction before Morgan tapped her and Raquel Rodriguez to win the women's tag titles, as long as there are no more secrets, according to Liv Morgan. Definitely setting up the feud down the road of Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan for the women's world title, and that should be a strong match with the story that they're going with, if and when it will actually happen. But for the actual in-ring action, Liv Morgan then announced that it was going to be JD McDonough taking care of Finn Balor tonight, so Roxanne Perez doesn't have to worry about him anymore. Now, Balor squared off with his former protege for the second time in just 2 weeks. The inaugural Universal Champion dominated early as well, but interference from the Judgment Day, specifically Dominic Mysterio, turned the tide back into JD McDonough's favor, just in time for Roxanne Perez to make her presence felt entering that commercial break. Now, Balor fought his way back into the match and overcame a ugly Spanish fly, and then appeared to poised to deliver his patented coup de grace for the win, until Mysterio ended up giving him a nice little crotch shot on the top rope, and referee Jessica Carr did finally see one of the interferences to happen. It was the fourth time Dominic Mysterio did interfere in this match, and she ended up kicking out the former IC champion. But the numbers game has still proved to be too much, as Liv Morgan distracted the referee and tossed Perez the timekeeper's hammer that Dirty Dom stole earlier in the match, and the Prodigy ended up showing her loyalty to the faction by utilizing it on Finn Balor in the babyface and setting up a headbutt win for JD McDonough, as he just simply fell on top of Finn Balor for the win. And while this match might have been a little bit overbooked, meaning there was a lot of bodies inside and outside that ring, but for the storyline, it all made sense. I mean, Finn Balor is going to continue to be a constant a thorn in the side of the Judgment Day, and they're all going to have to work together to try to eliminate that thorn. And he's already beaten Dirty Dom. He's already beaten JD McDonough, so they all had to work together to really stop this momentum that Finn Balor has been building against them. But overall, I thought it was still a great match, just a little bit overbooked. All of the different interferences definitely became much, but it was also kind of fun to watch, and you didn't know whether or not Roxanne Perez was going to turn right then and there or not, but as of right now, she is going to be staying with the Judgment Day. And then we head to the next in-ring action of this week. And there was a lot of in-ring action on this week's show, which definitely was needed after a very promo-filled Raw and SmackDown from last week. And the next piece of action was the fact that Penta was teaming with the young and bouncy Javon Evans to go against the newly founded team in Ethan Page and Rusev. Now, backstage, before the match happened, Paul Heyman, the wise man, did inform his team, the Vision, that Austin Theory will be battling Joe Hendry later tonight. It didn't seem like Logan Paul was too thrilled with that, as Logan Paul wanted to absolutely decimate Joe Hendry. But Paul Heyman said, well, my boy Brock Lesnar, he already retired. Braun Breaker almost got himself suspended earlier in the show, and he feared that Logan Paul would go to jail for what he did to Joe Hendry, and that's why Austin Theory had to step up to the plate. But then it was time for this thrown together tag team match, as the war over the IC championship does wage on, and the title holder Penta was partnering with the young and bouncy to battle All Ego, the up-and-comer Ethan Page and Rusev. And it was a very great match that saw a back and forth battle, which early on did see Penta escape Page's twisted grin, only to deliver his own Penta driver. But he failed to keep the former NXT champion down for a 3 count ahead of that commercial break. And back from it, Penta did create separation and was inches away from his hot tag, but that's when Rusev pulled Evans off of the apron, and with no partner to tag, Penta found himself on the receiving end of an absolute beatdown from the hands of the heels. But finally, the champion was able to tag in the young OG, and that's when everyone once again gets to get reminded how great of a performer this kid really is, as Javon Evans came in and exploded into the match, soaring through the air as he took the fight to the opposition, and the action broke down from there, with Evans teasing a huge leap of faith from the top of the ropes all the way to the announce table on Rusev. But that's when Ethan Page stepped in to send him to the floor. Elsewhere, that allowed Rusev to deliver a big slam to Penta onto the announce table and set him up for All Ego, who pinned the Luchador following a Fisherman Buster for the win, with the heels going on top. And Ethan Page, who last week was told by Rusev, "You better not fail me," it seemed like Rusev was a little proud after the match. So a great match that was thrown together with 4 guys that haven't tagged with each other. I mean, Javon Evans and Ethan Page built quite a rapport on NXT, and they perform rather well with each other. I mean, Ethan Page was selling his butt off against Javon Evans, really making him look good, which isn't hard to do with how good Javon Evans is in ring. But overall, I thought it was a fun match. It definitely sets up either Ethan Page or Rusev to go after Penta in that IC title. Maybe it'll even come down to a triple threat between Javon Evans, Ethan Page, and Rusev. Winner of that becomes #1 contender. It definitely feels like they're setting something up for one of those three to go after Penta next. And then it was time for Sol Ruca to sign her contract with the Red Brand. As the newest NXT call-up, Miss Ruca joined Raw General Manager Adam Pearce inside the ring to sign her main roster contract. But before she could actually put the pen to paper, your women's IC champion, Miss Becky Lynch, the man, interrupted, spoiling her big moment to confront Pearce and saying, "This was supposed to be the time that you allotted me to celebrate my IC title win at WrestleMania, but you're going to just give that to Sol Ruca?" And that's when Ruca cut off her ramblings and called her a big-headed, well, it's a word that rhymes with witch, but it's not witch. And it was before signing her name on the dotted line, and then once she did, she threatened big-time Bex, warning that if she ever interrupts her again, she will not only kick her butt, but also snatch her soul. Lynch then tried to hit a sneak attack, but ended up clocking the general manager, Adam Pearce, and then ate a stellar soul snatcher as the newcomer stood tall and immediately put herself inside of the Intercontinental running. So I thought this was a great segment here for Sol Ruca to really show off what she can do on the mic, have a big moment against Becky Lynch, but also set her up with possibly an immediate feud for a title. Just a great way to show off one of your best newcomers. And then talking about newcomers, well, Joe Hendry was ready for his first in-ring match on the Red Brand against Austin Theory. And after an irate Logan Paul did interrupt Joe Hendry's Fire Logan Paul song, Hendry did square off with the Vision's other tag team champion, Mr. Austin Theory. Now, this was a rather standard match with nothing too stellar that did see Joe Hendry fend off Theory, only for Logan Paul to interfere in the match, drawing a disqualification. That's when the Street Profits made a save and fought off the heels, only for Braun Breaker to appear to take them out. Seth Rollins then reappeared too to once again take a spear from Braun Breaker. So honestly, I feel bad for Joe Hendry as he kind of got put in the background of this one, as this wasn't really much of a match, as it was just a continuation at the start of the show, and also from last week when the Street Profits ended up fighting the Vision and then told Seth Rollins that it wasn't for him, it was for them and those tag team titles. It really just felt like they threw this match aside to really advance that storyline, but it didn't advance it in any way. If anything, it felt like a carbon copy of what we got last week once all of them were in the ring, and it also felt like just almost a carbon copy of what happened at the start of the show with Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins, not adding anything else to that story as well. Really just felt like a throwaway segment in my opinion. Performance was all right. There's nothing bad about it. There's just nothing that added to it. But one of the big moments everyone was waiting for tonight's show was the fact that it was the first night of the Obafemi Open Challenge, and what at first appeared to be Akira Tozawa answering the call as Alpha Academy's music hit. They all walked out. Akira Tozawa started walking towards the ring, but then instead we saw Otis, big man, step up. And it was fresh off his dominant victory over Brock Lesnar at the Showcase of Immortals. Obafemi was ready to show everyone what he is about. And Femi then tossed the former Olympic powerlifter around the ring, just looking like a rag doll compared to the ruler. And from there, he then positioned him on the top ropes, pointed at his brain, said, "I got a little bit of smart thinking here, because how in the world was he going to lift Otis up for a fall from grace?" Well, he didn't lift him up. He just put him on the top rope, and from there, positioned himself to deliver that massive fall from grace powerbomb to secure a very short but sweet victory in this one. And Corey Graves said it best on commentary to put over this jaw-dropping win. Obafemi is becoming a phenomenon in this business. And that's the best way to put it. Anything less than him being a world champion by the end of this year would be a major disappointment to how big you have built him up. You took Gunther out of the Raw brand. That definitely sets up Obafemi to be this big bad. And I think he should be fighting Roman Reigns as soon as SummerSlam. I think if WWE was smart, you would have Obafemi win King of the Ring. Go from there to parlay that into a world title shot at SummerSlam against the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, for the world heavyweight title. I think anything less than that will be a disappointment to me as well. But this was a great start to the open challenge. But at some point, we're also going to have someone that poses some sort of a threat to Obafemi, some sort of a challenge. And then the next in-ring match. Like I said, we had a lot of in-ring action on tonight's show. The next one was a continuation of a story on AAA. It was Trios Tag Team match. Los Americanos versus OG El Grande Americano, and two people that looked awfully familiar to the Creed brothers. Now, this is ahead of the big match at Noches de los Grandes, as it was a mask for mask match at AAA against El Grande Americano versus the OG El Grande Americano. And this time around, both of the two leaders partnered with their two sidekicks in a battle in a trios tag team match. Now, early on, the OG and what seems to be the Creed brothers definitely dominated early in this one, as the action-packed six-man tag saw all six combatants shine late, each delivering a signature move, culminating in what was a big splash from Rayo to the OG, but only keeping him down for a 2 count. It wasn't but moments later that the OG laid out Rayo to score the win for his team with a diving headbutt. And that was the end of the match. But something I have to keep saying is that we need to pay attention to what's going on in AAA WWE. If you're going to bring this storyline to the main roster, at least pay attention to how it's received down there. Because in AAA, El Grande Americano, not OG, is easily the babyface in this story. He is so beloved on the AAA brand that it makes no sense. Every time we see him anywhere on the main roster, he is being portrayed as a heel, up to heel antics. You're just not paying attention to the character or the story down there. And then you want to try to portray the OG as the babyface when he's on the main roster, when everyone boos the crap out of him in AAA. You're reversing the roles for no reason, with no added storyline. You might as well just not even tell this story on your main roster and let it all unfold on AAA. I know you're trying to get eyes down there, but at least have some continuity when it comes to that story. That's the only thing that has made me a little annoyed about it. Is I love what they've done in AAA with these two characters, but they just don't match that energy when they have them on the main roster. At that point, I just rather you skip it. And then it was time for the main event in Omaha, Nebraska, as the CHI Health Center was ready to acknowledge their tribal chief, as it was contract signing time. Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu both sitting in the same ring across from the table from one another after what happened last week. I mean, what could actually go wrong? Nothing goes wrong in a contract signing. Now, as you would expect, Roman Reigns sat at the head of the table, talking to Jacob Fatu ahead of their match on Saturday night at Backlash. And he took exception to what he said was the disrespect shown to him. I mean, screw disrespect. This guy straight up assaulted you with a crazy move called the Tongan Death Grip. I mean, that's not just disrespect, that is assault, brother. And he claimed to have brought the Samoan werewolf into the company by way of bringing in Solo Sikoa. Now, Jacob Fatu once again did reiterate his motivation for targeting Reigns. Says, I want a bigger house. I want to put more food on the table for my kids. It was kind of just a reiteration of things we've heard before. And then that's when he broke out the same Tongan Death Grip that he used just last week to lead the OTC, lying this week, as he then put pen to paper and signed the contract to close out the show. Now, I think the segment was good. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I didn't believe the performance from each of them. Jacob Fatu does seem like an absolute psychopath the more they keep pushing him, going more off the deep end, but it felt like a segment that just simply existed for the sake of having a main event. It had no real newsworthy development or new angle to make a Saturday's match any more interesting than it already is. And it's interesting. It's also the fact that the WWE Universe is also like very tone deaf in their storytelling. We already talked about the Los Americanos and how they're portrayed on the main roster. Well, do we all remember what Roman Reigns was when he was world champion? Well, right now, they're portraying him as the babyface in this narrative. After Jacob Fatu took down one of the biggest heels on SmackDown and Drew McIntyre, all of a sudden he's a heel and Roman Reigns is the babyface. It's almost like they're ignorant to the fact that the OTC regained his title, his position at the head of the table, and already has been kind of playing this role of the gaslighting heel in the WWE. So it is very interesting to see how they're portraying both the characters, and it's just a little disappointing that we got no continuation of the storyline last night in that contract signing, or no added part to it. It was just kind of like copy and paste what they said, do it again, and let Jacob Fatu attack and get the one up again, which definitely has me a little puzzled because I don't see a world where Jacob Fatu wins this title. But with the way they put him over so much in the build-up, it does have me wondering if maybe he will win this title. At the very least, it's nice to see that they are building Jacob Fatu in a good way to leave him in this main event scene where he definitely belongs as a performer, because he's one of the best ones that the WWE has on a night in, night out basis. But that's everything that happened on a Monday Night Raw. Overall, I thought it was rather good. It could have been better, but it did its job in being that go-home show before Backlash this Saturday. We only have one more day, Friday night, to iron out just a couple more details about this PLE on Saturday night. But man, am I ready. And that's going to do it for this segment, as now we head to a short commercial break on the Breakdown with Benny. But when I come back, I'll have some more sports talk action for all of y'all, so stay tuned for that.